Thank you for joining us here at One Kingdom Worldwide as we share the greatest love story ever told in support of the God-led life. Welcome to Section 1, Essential Scriptural Context that has been lost down through the ages. There's nothing new under the sun. What has been will be again. Those who don't learn from history are condemned to repeat it. 3,000 years ago, the wise old King Solomon said, "There's nothing new under the sun, and what's been will be again." And forever since then, we've been finding that out to be true, and various people throughout history have come up with different ways of saying it, one of which was, those who don't learn from history are condemned to repeat it. Well, today we've got division between Democrats and Republicans. Then it was between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, both of whom had tried to use various ways to convince people that what they were doing was the right way to go. If you want to follow God, follow me. If you want to follow God, follow us. If you want to follow God, Baptist versus Catholic versus Lutheran versus Pentecostal versus now 250 denominations, 250 divisions. Well, 250 years before Jesus, there was the same kind of thing going on. And if you do your homework, you can see that the Democrats and the Republicans of today are very much in the same situation, doing the same things that was going on between the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Each one trying to gain power in order to have control of government, in order to have control over people, in order to get what they believed should happen to happen. Well, these days we have another analogy available back 250 years before, and that's from the Essenes. The Essenes basically said, no, we're not doing Sadducees, we're not doing Pharisees, it's all corrupt. And these days we're saying we're not doing Democrats, we're not doing Republicans. At least the wisest of us are. Because otherwise we're condemned to continue to repeat the same mistakes that have gone down over the last several thousand years of history. So the Essenes, they tried having a direct communication with God. As we discussed previously in previous episodes, their whole idea was that they were going to escape more like monks out into the desert and be prepared for when the Messiah came, that there might be a pure religion in the day. Now, the reality of that is we're doing the same thing now. There's a whole bunch of us out here that will not be Democrats, will not be Republicans. And we're not going to be independents. We're not going to be affiliated politically. We're trying to do what the Essenes did. Relationship with God. Understand what Jesus taught us, how to live a life pleasing to God. That was the role of the rabbi back in his day. And when Jesus showed up, he had a lot of bad to say about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Now, the Essenes were very important in the day, although they pretty much went out and hid. And come to think of it, isn't that what's going on with Christians of our day? Aren't we just hiding from the Democrats and the Republicans? From all the craziness of this world? But how are we ever going to affect a good quality change if we're not part of what's going on, if we're not into the conversations of what's going on? And so what we've fallen into is the ways that people use religion to control us. The Democrats are spoken of by the Republicans, and they say, we give you things to try to buy your vote. But the Democrats say about the Republicans that Republicans are harsh, cold, cruel, heartless. And they're both using Scripture to say that what they're doing is right. If someone has need, give. And over here they're saying, if you don't work, you don't eat. And at the extremes, this is foolishness. In the center, where we can find wisdom, is a situational consideration. If somebody is in need, we gotta give. But if they've been laying on our couch for 6 months, or if they've been on the dole for the last few years, at some point you gotta say, come on, man, be part of the society, be a contributing member of society. Earn so that you too can share as we've shared with you. And so at some point, we have to say, if you don't work, you don't eat. So, what they love to do is to get us considering the extremes. But what's really the situation is what Jesus said. What's your attitude? What are you producing? So let's have some wisdom, and let's be humble and not think that we've got all the answers. Let's mourn for those that are out there hurting, that we still haven't been able to figure out a way to help. Let's be meek and have gentleness as a way of life. As we hunger and thirst for righteousness, we'll pray as Jesus taught us to pray. We'll pray for justice against our adversaries. And in fact, we'll pray for our adversaries, that they might come into right relationship with God and stop doing this and start to have fruit of the Spirit. And so we'll be merciful and we'll receive mercy. We'll be pure in heart and overcome the temptations of anger. We'll be peacemakers on behalf of the Most High God. So this is a critical thing to understand, is that if we're not paying attention to the past, we're going to repeat it. And we are repeating it here in the USA. So what this is all about is to try to get us back to what Jesus did when he came. What Jesus said when he came was that the Pharisees and the Sadducees were hell on earth themselves. They were whitewashed tombs. They were dead. They had no benefit to anybody. In fact, they were leading people into worse and worse situations as they led them down the lines that they thought they should be living by. Affiliating with government rather than God. What Jesus said was, these attitudes will bring about these results. And so start with the attitude. So we'll continue in the next episode and open up the Scripture as Jesus did, that we might better understand how to live a life pleasing to God.